Welcome back to the Brothers War EDH. My name is Ryan. This is Chris. This is Blake. We're back at it again. Rapid fire. The best cards in cEDH for red, for card advantage. The red episode. Big red, like the gum. Spicy.
Yikes, I hadn't seen that in
Spicy.
years.
Cinnamony.
It's cinnamon spice.
Yeah, it's spicy.
How does red give card advantage?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Plenty of ways. With red that can do it all. But the main way it does it is through exile effects, the impulse draw, if you will. Looking at the top card or exiling the top cards of your library and then casting them. That is the main way red does that. And we will be going over some of those cards today.
You already mentioned one, Jessica's Will.
I can mention
one.
the rest of them right now.
Right.
No,
What are
no,
the
we're good.
Well, the two that people normally think of
With red?
Yeah, with red. There's two. Underworld Breach.
Yep.
And freaking Jessica's Will. Like, you know, those two are going to show up pretty much if you're playing red. Now, I think that there's a thought that, oh, well, you're not playing Breach lines. Why are you playing Breach? Dude. It's still it's still good.
Right.
It's still
I
good.
can still cast cards from my graveyard, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, why not? And, you know, we're playing cEDH, so by the time you're ready to actually deploy a Breach, now, you know, you could do it for like freaking one card, or you can do it for a lot later on down the line and still be able to get a lot of really good value off of it. It's 2 mana. It's 2 mana. And you can cast a lot of cards from your graveyard. Like, come on.
I mean, people are usually running it for combo, but if you're in red and you're still not running Breach, even for value, what are you doing?
Right.
Come on now.
Like, I'd probably run it over like a mountain.
I'm sure Blake's on Breach too, aren't you? In Clark Sakashima?
I am on Breach.
He is on Breach. He is. He couldn't resist. Just as Will. Especially if you can, like, copy it. Oh. It's just...
Yeah. Well, even if you can't copy it, it's just...
Early turn breaches, you're like exiling cards off the top. You got your commander out. Mana advantage, card advantage. It's only 3 mana. It's also used in like combos with with like red 2.
It's probably the best card in Clark Sakashima, right? Wouldn't you say
Is
so?
it the best? Definitely not. It's a card you want. It's a card you want to see after you've tried to go off once and someone stopped you. That's usually where that tends to be where unless you actually have like a winning line with it. So like if I'm if we're running the Lion's Eye Diamond combo and that sort of thing, then obviously it's one of the win cons in the deck. But if you're not running it, which I currently am not running Lion's Eye, so it's not a. I guess that's not true. It technically can be a win condition with Petal plus Brain Freeze. So it is a winning line, but does require a couple of pieces for the most parts. And when I play it, it tends to be a rebuild / rebuy spells from the graveyard that can then be copied, which I think is where, unless you're comboing with Breach, which, like we've already said, that's what a lot of the decks are doing with it, but I think it's a perfectly fine card for value, especially in the format where most of our spells are somewhere between 1 and 3 mana, where you can get multiple cards off of it per turn.
Professional Facebreaker. Every time I play this card, it does a lot of work. I mean, you know, especially in those decks where you have like just like random creatures lying around, you're attacking everybody, you're making treasures, those turn entering card advantage. And if you're playing freaking red, you're playing Dockside. This card just can
Facebreaker is also an infinite treasure outlet too, so
right.
I do definitely think that this is more, or this falls more in the category of ramp than card draw, but obviously can be used in that scenario, because mostly where I think of this card is like in Mono Red Magda or something like that, where it like really shines as card draw, because that deck is already generating all those treasures and that sort of thing, where then it like can actually afford to use them as card draw, because I feel like a lot of the professional Facebreaker decks are more using this for the acceleration they're using it for the card draw. But again, multifaceted cards are basically what cEDH is built around. So
it's freaking amazing. Yes. Speaking of multifaceted cards, you know, our favorite little monkey, man, Ragavan.
Yep.
Ragavana. You're doing.
Ragaman.
Well, he's the Ragaman. That's terrible. But like, you know, this does, I guess you can say it kind of falls along the same lines as a face breaker. You know, you're getting ramp, and then you could get the card advantage off their top, which I'd rather cast my cards, but it's still kind of card advantage. It's also so cheap, man. Like 1 mana, you're getting treasures, and you get to take the top card and then cast it if you want. And like what Blake said, you know, normally those cards are very, very cheap, in people's decks. So cast something very, very relevant, all for 1 mana. It's also a 2/1. Also a 2/1, man. Ragavan. The Ragaman.
Ragaman.
The Valkyrie Awakening card on here. Because you are kind of going up 1 card, and you also get to, like, you know, if you freaking hate your hand, you just tuck it, draw more, and then draw +1. Plus it's a land.
Do you think the problem with that one is the land enters tapped, which is basically why I never see that card played? Because at least with the other lands, you can have it be a land that you pay 3 life to have it untapped.
That is true. You're right.
Are we counting the wheels?
I mean, definitely, I think they need to be talked about in terms of advantage, because again, you know, especially with red, a lot of the decks are usually very cheap, and you're trying to dump your hand, and then just having the ability to Wheel of Fortune to not only rebuy your hand, but then also potentially disrupt your opponents is a particularly strong interaction.
Right.
Obviously, significantly worse is they're like fixed Wheel of Fortune, where you do the whole gambling with life kind of thing.
Wheel of Misfortune.
Yeah, I think that card is particularly bad for the most part. I never like giving my opponents choice.
He's not a choice guy.
And then while we're also on this like subdivision of advantage, this is where we talk about the red tutors. So your gambles, your Imperial recruiters, those sort of cards where they're not exactly advantage, they're more selection, depending on how you look at them. Then I've got 2 that are kind of off the wall, but I think see decent play, especially in mono red. So first one is the backside of Bergie. Okay. Very few people use this side of Bergie. Most people are trying to use the red or the mana generation part of it. But in a long game, especially since we're trending towards mid game, that card is particularly interesting in the sense that you can discard 1 card to it and impulse the top 2. I think it is quite good. Yeah. You also get to play those cards, so you do get lands off of them. So I think not only does Bergie serve the front side to get you additional mana, in the late game you can play the Horn for additional card draw.
Yeah, Hornfell.
And my other one is Hardenfell, Horn of Bounty. The second card is a lot. It looks really niche, but I actually see this card a lot, especially in like Godo and other mono red decks. But Anji's Ravager. Yeah. 3 mana 3/3. When it attacks, you discard your hand and draw 3. So I actually see this card quite a bit nowadays as a mono red draw engine. Is it particularly good? No, not really. But in your low mana or your low color red decks like red black, mono red, that sort of thing, that I think is where this card mostly pops up and is particularly good. And then the last set on my list is your welder types. Specifically engineer, because it actually is a tutor and then puts it in your graveyard. But I threw welder in here as well, as they kind of are not exactly advantage, but they're trading 1 card for another and can be particularly advantageous for you in that sense.
Oh yeah, the welders are great. I have one that no one's mentioned, and we've talked about it on the channel before, but I was thinking about it. It's a Brass's Tunnel Grinder. You get the +1 card on it, but then whenever it transforms, that land lets you like discover every single time you like use the mana to like cast something. So basically free cards, at that point. So that's the last one that I had. It's definitely not in like cEDH, but I do have it in my Duretti deck right now. I've been giving it a try, and when I was playtesting it, it's been doing okay. I don't know if it's worth having in there. Maybe it's just more of like a fun card, but
I've got these are all fringe, by the way, except maybe one of them.
I was say you're Chris. Of course, it's all fucking fringe.
All right, so I got some spice for y'all.
Okay.
The first one on my list is Grenzo Havoc Raider. Or Razor. I think that this card is just severely underplayed in general. I think well, first of all, it's only 2 mana. It's a creature, so if you're in any creature-based strategy, like we've talked about the Tymna's, the Mardu Tymna decks and stuff like that. I feel like this card could be played in those.
Winota.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, Winota. Those ones that just want to attack. That's basically where I'm going to be kind of in this whole zone of these next cards I'm going to go into. But Grenzo being able to exile just whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, it's not that one or more clause, is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So that's a form of card advantage. My second one, I'll save my best one for last. My second one is going to be Connecting the Dots, a fairly new one that I really, really like. It's a 2-mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You could pay a red and a colorless to discard your hand to put all cards that were exiled into your hand. So if you're in any creature-based strategy, this just triggers off attack. You can be drawn. Shoot, I've seen this card. I've personally tested this card and put upwards to 7 to 14 cards in my hand. It's just an insane card. For 2 mana, it's very, very efficiently rated, and I think that it's a newer card. But I think that creature-based strategies, aggro decks, which we don't see a lot of, but maybe some Staxy ones could potentially use this card.
Reminds me a lot of Bomat Courier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then my final one, which is probably a little bit more than Fringe, it's just an extremely powerful card. Rose Cutthroat Raider. It's from another new card from Fallout. It is a 4-mana artifact robot. It has first strike. It's got raid. At the end of combat on your turn, if you attacked, create a junk token for each opponent you attacked. And the reason why this is a much better card. Well, one, people are starting to play this card in the as the commander and use it with aggravated assault loops. But sacrificing a junk to exile the top card of your library and then it adds the bonus to provide mana advantage is very, very strong. So basically, you drop this if you attack, your opponents. You're effectively playing this card for 1 mana. The general play pattern I've seen here is, waiting until your next turn to sacrifice those junks, because you can only do it at sorcery speed anyways. But you want to wait till your mana is untapped so you can, utilize the whole exile if you need to. So I think the card is very strong. I've seen it played. I've played it in a couple of my builds, and it's very, very strong. So those are my, I guess, honorable mentions / fringe.
Super fringe.
I do like that at least it's a 4-mana card that, like, assuming you're built, because you definitely don't play this unless you're somewhat built like in the archetype or around the card where you can play it. It doesn't do anything, but you can attack and immediately get your junks, and then worst case scenario, you could turn around and sacrifice 3 junks to generate 3 mana in your second main phase, potentially cast some sort of cards or that sort of thing. That is, I like that card. Interesting.
It's something. It's new. It's fresh.
Yeah, it is fresh.
So that is going to be the episode of best card advantage cards in red for cEDH. As always, if there's some random as trash cards that y'all just want to let us know that we did not mention on here, let us know what they are in red. I'm pretty sure that we covered the majority of them, but we're a fan of the fringe. We're fans of the fringe.
Not Blake, but I am.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, no, Blake's a fan. He's a fan of the fringe.
That's gonna be it. That's gonna be it for us over here. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell all your pets. Tell them all. Tell them all about the Brothers War. With that being said, my name is Ryan. This is Chris. This is Blake. We're the Brothers War. Have a great night. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace out, homies.